Geely says its new electric car just broke 2 Guinness World Records. But the strange part is how it did it. The car did not need a giant battery, a wild new shape, or a design that looks impossible to sell. It did it with a system Geely says can turn more battery power into real driving range. The idea is simple. If the car uses battery power better, it may travel farther without needing a larger battery. So how did China build an electric car this efficient? And what does it reveal about the future of EV range, batteries, and price? The car is called the Geely TT, and the part behind the records is hidden under the body. It is a 75-kilogram electric drive system. In a gas car, people would talk about the engine. In an electric car, the better name is an electric drive system because it helps turn battery power into movement. Geely calls this one a 16-in-1 intelligent e-drive. The name sounds dry, but the idea is easy to follow. A normal EV has many parts that help move power from the battery to the wheels. One part controls the motor, another handles charging, another changes high power from the battery into lower power for lights, screens, and other systems. Other parts watch battery health, control heat, and help the car respond when the driver presses the pedal. Geely says it packed many of those jobs into one smaller unit. That matters because every extra box, wire, and connection adds weight, cost, and another place where energy can be lost. A cleaner path from the battery to the wheels can help the car use power better. Geely claims this system reaches 93.8% efficiency under China's CLTC test cycle. In plain words, Geely is saying more of the power going through the system is used to move the car instead of being lost as heat or waste. That number is the reason people noticed the launch. The Guinness records are the reason the launch became bigger than a slide on a stage. Geely used the TT to set one record for very low energy use and another for a long twin car drift on a wet surface. One test was about using less power. The other was about staying stable when the car was pushed hard. And both point to the same question. Can an electric car get better by carrying less battery, not more? The first record happened around Qinghai Lake in western China. Geely says the TT recorded energy use of 8.20 kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometers. Guinness World Records recognized it for the lowest energy use around Qinghai Lake by a battery electric production sedan. That number can sound meaningless if you do not follow EV data. So think of it like this. A gas car uses fuel to travel a certain distance. An electric car uses battery power. The less power it needs to travel that distance, the more useful every charge becomes. That is why this record matters for normal buyers. A battery is one of the most expensive parts of an EV. It is also one of the heaviest. When automakers want more range, the easy answer is to add more battery. But a larger battery costs more, weighs more, takes more space, and can make the whole car more expensive. Geely is trying to show another path. Instead of only asking how much energy the car can carry, it is asking how much of that energy the car can actually turn into distance. That is a very different kind of EV race. For years, the loudest numbers were battery size, range, charge speed, and horsepower. Those still matter, but if a car can use power better, it may not need to keep growing heavier and more expensive just to go farther. That is the promise behind this Geely system. The record around Qinghai Lake gave people a clean number to talk about, but the harder part was inside the car. To understand the system, picture a car with too many parts doing related jobs in different places. Power has to leave the battery. It has to pass through control units. It has to reach the motor. It has to be managed, cooled, watched, and adjusted while the car is moving. Every step has a cost. Some of that cost is weight. Some of it is space. Some of it is heat. Some of it is the chance that a small part fails years later. Geely's answer was to bring more of those jobs together. Car News China reported that the system combines 12 hardware functions and 4 software functions. The hardware side includes the motor, motor controller, reducer, onboard charger, battery management systems, vehicle control, heat management, and other power systems. The software side helps manage energy, charging, motion, and health. The list of parts can get technical fast, but the main idea stays simple. Fewer separate boxes, shorter power paths, less wiring, less weight, more room inside the car. Geely says the design removes more than 180 extra parts, cuts high-voltage wiring by 30%, and cuts low-voltage wiring by 15%. That is where the efficiency story begins to make sense. A car can lose energy when power has to travel through more parts and more connections. Cleaning up the system can help power move with less loss. But packing so many jobs into one unit creates a new risk: heat. When you put more power parts closer together, heat has fewer places to escape. If the system cannot stay cool, the car may lose power, wear faster, or protect itself by slowing down. That is why Geely needed the second record. The second record sounds like a stunt until you look at what it tests. Geely says 2 TT sedans completed a continuous twin-vehicle drift over more than 46 kilometers on a wet surface. Guinness recognized it as the longest continuous twin-vehicle drift on a wet surface by electric vehicles. Drifting looks like showmanship, but it punishes an electric drive system. The motors keep working hard. The wheels spin for a long time. Power moves quickly through the system. Heat builds in the motor, the control parts, and the parts that manage power. If the cooling system is weak, the car will not keep giving full power. It may cut performance to protect itself. In a normal car, that might show up during hard driving, mountain roads, hot weather, or repeated fast charging. So the drift record was not only about sliding cars for attention, it gave Geely a public way to show heat control. The company says the system uses 54 cooling channels and active lubrication to help keep temperatures under control. Geely also says this can reduce the highest motor temperature by up to 15 degrees Celsius. That connects back to the 16-in-1 design. Combining parts can save space and weight, but it only works if the unit can handle heat. The drift record was Geely's way of showing that the system could keep working under heavy stress. Now the two records fit together. The Qinghai Lake run showed low energy use. The drift run showed heat control under pressure. One made the car look efficient, the other made the system look tougher than a simple lab number. But records are still records. Real life is messier. This is where the story needs caution. Geely claims 93.8% efficiency under CLTC. CLTC is China's test cycle, and test cycles do not always match daily driving. A number from a test cycle can be useful, but it is not the same as a guarantee for every driver. The Qinghai Lake record is also specific. It was a real Guinness title, but it was tied to one route and one kind of challenge. A driver in hot traffic, cold weather, high speeds, or rough roads may see very different energy use. The drift record has the same limit. It shows the cars could complete a long, wet surface drift under the record conditions. It does not prove long-term reliability in every market, with every driver, over many years. That does not make the records weak. It just keeps the claim honest. The auto industry is full of big numbers that sound simple until real drivers test them. Range claims change with speed and weather. Charging claims depend on the charger and battery temperature. Driver assist claims depend on the road. Efficiency claims need the same kind of care. So the fair version is this. Geely claims it has built an extremely efficient electric drive system. The TT then backed the launch with 2 Guinness World Records. The next test is whether the advantage holds up across more roads, more labs, more climates, and more years of use. If it does, the impact could reach far beyond one Chinese sedan. Because the real prize is not the record. It is the chance to make EVs feel less wasteful. This puts pressure on older automakers because China is changing the kind of fight they are in. For a long time, people dismissed Chinese cars as cheap. That view is now outdated. Chinese automakers are competing on price, but they are also competing on batteries, software, charging, driver assist features, and now deeper parts of the electric drive system. A system like Geely's attacks the market from a different angle. If a car can use battery power better, it may offer more range from the same battery, or it may offer the same range with a smaller battery. Either path can make rival EVs look heavier, more expensive, or less smart. That is why efficiency can become a serious weapon. A company with better efficiency does not always need the biggest battery to look good on paper. It can sell range, price, and power use as one package. It can also make buyers ask harder questions. Why does this EV need such a large battery? Why is this car so heavy? Why does this brand charge more for the same range? Why does one car use less power to do the same trip? Those questions are painful for automakers that already spent billions building EV platforms around large batteries and high prices. The pressure will not look the same everywhere. In markets where Chinese EVs can enter more freely, buyers may compare them directly against Western and Japanese brands. In markets with tariffs or trade barriers, buyers may not see the same cars at the same prices, but the comparison still exists. People can see what is being built elsewhere, and that changes what they expect. A record in China can make an EV in another country feel expensive. That is why this is bigger than Geely. It is a warning that the next EV race may be about who can do more with less. For normal buyers, the most important idea is simple. Range is not only about battery size. A huge battery can help a car go far, but it also adds cost and weight. A more efficient car can make each charge more useful. That can affect how often the driver charges, how large the battery needs to be, and how much the car may cost if the company can build it at scale. This is why the Geely TT is worth watching even for people who will never buy one. The buyer does not care about a 16-in-1 drive system because the name sounds impressive. They care if it changes the things they feel every day. More range, less charging stress, less weight, a smaller battery that still feels useful, a price that becomes easier to bring down. That is the part the industry has struggled with. EVs have improved quickly, but many still feel too expensive for normal buyers. A lot of companies solved range anxiety by adding bigger batteries, stronger motors, and more technology. That helped make EVs impressive, but it also helped make them costly. Geely's record points to a cleaner idea. Use the battery better. If that becomes the next race, the whole market could change. Automakers would not only chase larger packs and faster chargers, they would have to prove that their cars use power wisely. Buyers would start looking at how much energy a car uses, not just how far the brochure says it can go. That shift would be healthy. It would push companies to make EVs lighter, cleaner, and less dependent on huge batteries. It could also make today's heavy, expensive EVs look like an early version of the technology. The records do not prove that this future has already arrived. They show where the fight may be going next. Geely's car broke 2 Guinness records, but the larger story is what those records are pointing toward. The first record showed an electric sedan using very little energy on a long route. The second showed the drive system handling heat during a hard test. Behind both was the same idea. An EV does not always need more battery to get better. Sometimes it needs to use the battery it already has more carefully. That is why this story matters for the next electric car buyers see in a showroom. If China can make efficiency a major selling point, other automakers will have to respond. They can build better systems, lower energy use, improve cooling, reduce weight, or explain why their cars still need bigger batteries and higher prices. Some of that pressure may lower costs over time. Some of it may make EVs travel farther on the same charge. Some of it may force older automakers to rethink how their cars are built. The careful part is that buyers still need proof. They need real-world tests, long-term reliability, fair pricing, and cars that can be repaired outside a record event. A Guinness record can start the conversation. It cannot finish it, but it can change what people ask. For years, the EV question was simple. How big is the battery and how far does it go? Geely's record-breaking car adds a better question. How much of that battery does the car actually use well? That question could shape the next stage of the EV market. The winners may not be the companies that keep adding the biggest batteries. They may be the companies that make every kilowatt count. And if that happens, the biggest benefit may not be another record. It may be an electric car that finally gives normal buyers more range, less battery weight, and a price that makes sense.